Hello and welcome. Today we are diving into a really cool scientific paper from 2007, one that promised a world without wires, a technology that could, finally free us from the tyranny of the charging cable. I mean, seriously, who isn't, right? You know the drill. You're hunting for a charger, you're untangling that bird's nest of wires, and then you're stuck, chained to a wall socket. It just feels so old-fashioned. But what if you never had to do that ever again? Well, this is the moment that could change everything. A team at MIT did something that honestly sounds like it's straight out of science fiction. They beamed a real significant amount of power through the air, over a pretty good distance, and lit up a standard light bulb. And we're not talking about some tiny little LED here. This was 60 watts. That's enough to power a laptop. But this idea of sending electricity through the air, it wasn't born in 2007. Not even close. It's a dream that engineers and inventors have been chasing for more than 100 years. The most famous dreamers, of course, was Nikola Tesla. He had this grand vision of a global system for wirelessly transmitting power. For a whole bunch of reasons, though, his big projects never really got off the ground, leaving that dream just out of reach. So why? Why was this so ridiculously hard to do for over a century? Well, it all boils down to what scientists call the mid-range power problem. Let's take a look at what we had before this breakthrough.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting, because this slide shows you the big problem. On one side, you've got induction. Think about your electric toothbrush charger. It works, sure, but the toothbrush has to be sitting right on the base. Move it even a little bit, and poof, the power just drops off a cliff. Useless for charging something across the room. Then, on the other side, you've got stuff like your Wi-Fi router. I mean, it sends signals all over the house, right? But it does that by just spraying energy in every direction. Trying to power your phone with that would be like trying to fill a water bottle during a hurricane. Almost all of that energy is just gone, wasted.
So that's the key right there, that mid-range gap. How do you get a useful amount of power from, say, one side of the room to the other without wasting pretty much all of it, and without having to aim it like some kind of laser beam? That was the big challenge that had stumped everybody. So, how did they finally bridge that gap? Well, the solution, it turns out, came from a principle that's all around us. In music, in mechanics, you name it, the answer was resonance. To put it really simply, resonance is just the idea that if you get something to vibrate at its natural, happy frequency, you can make a second identical thing start to vibrate too, just by being nearby. The tuning fork analogy is just perfect for this. If you have two tuning forks both tuned to the exact same note, and you strike one, the sound waves it sends through the air are pitched perfectly to get that second one to start humming on its own, even from a distance. The energy moves super efficiently because they are literally in tune with each other. And this is where the MIT team had their brilliant insight. They basically took that tuning fork idea and applied it, not to sound, but to magnetic fields. They designed two copper coils so they would resonate at the exact same magnetic frequency, creating this sort of invisible, energetic connection between them. The fancy scientific term for this is this strongly coupled regime. But just think of it like this. The two coils are such a perfect match for each other that they'd much rather pass energy back and forth between themselves than lose it to the rest of the room. That tight focus is the real secret to being so efficient. All right, so with this really powerful theory in their pocket, the MIT team was ready to go from concept to reality. Let's look at the actual experiment that made history. So here's the setup, right from the paper. Over on the left, you've got the source coil, that's S, and it's hooked up to a power source. Then on the right, you've got the device coil, D, and that's connected to a light bulb. The whole point is that these two coils aren't touching at all. There's just open air between them. So the first incredible result, they managed to transfer 60 watts of power. Now, just to give you some perspective, that's more than enough to run a bright light bulb, power a laptop, or charge your phone a bunch of times over. It's real power. The second result, and honestly, this one might be even more stunning, was the distance. They did this from over 2 meters away. That's about 7 feet. This wasn't some little tabletop trick. This was true room-scale wireless power. And finally, the efficiency. At that 2-meter distance, they hit around 40%. Now, you might hear that and think, wait, that means 60% of the power was lost? And you're right. But, and this is a huge but, compared to everything else, at that range, other methods had an efficiency of basically zero. Nothing. So going from 0 to 40%, that wasn't just a step forward, that was a monumental leap. And this part is so important. Unlike Wi-Fi, which just radiates energy out everywhere, this system creates a contained magnetic field that couples the two coils together. This is what makes it not only efficient, but also safe. The energy isn't just being blasted into the room, it's being specifically channeled from the source to the device. The success of this one experiment immediately blew the doors wide open for imagining a truly wireless future. I mean, what would that world actually look like? And the advantages were obvious right away. Because it's using this contained magnetic field, the power isn't blocked if people or furniture get in the way. It's safe, you could hide the power source right in your wall, and the little receiving coils in your devices could be tiny. And maybe best of all, this was just the first try. They knew the efficiency could get way better. And you gotta love this last line from their paper. This wasn't some far-off, maybe someday kind of thing. The researchers themselves said that the system they built in the lab was already good enough to be turned into real-world products. So that kind of brings us to the final thought, right? Just imagine it. A room where your laptop, your phone, your lights, everything is powered up automatically the second you walk in. No plugs, no cables, no batteries to ever worry about. What's the very first thing you'd want to power up?